The Dome of the Rock, one of the most iconic structures in Jerusalem, sits atop a location known as the Temple Mount in the Old City. This area is sacred to all three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. The question of whether the Dome of the Rock will be destroyed ties deeply into religious, historical, and political tensions. 1. What happened in Jerusalem surprises the whole world. Events that happen in Jerusalem, especially around the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock, can shock or surprise the world because of the site's immense religious and historical significance. Here are a few contexts in which such events have occurred or might occur. A. Political and religious tensions in Jerusalem. Jerusalem has been a flashpoint of conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, and any disturbance at the Temple Mount area, where the Dome of the Rock is located, resonates across the globe. The site is a symbol of deep-rooted religious claims and tensions, particularly because Muslims regard the site as the place where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night journey. The Dome of the Rock is the third holiest site in Islam, after Mecca and Medina. Jews consider the Temple Mount the site of the first and second temples, which were the holiest places in Judaism. According to Jewish tradition, the third temple will be built on this site in the Messianic era, and this belief fuels religious tension. Christians hold the city sacred due to its connections to the life and crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Any major event in this area, whether political, religious, or violent, can create shockwaves throughout the world. Examples include clashes between Israeli security forces and Palestinian worshippers, especially if they occur on major religious holidays. Announcements by religious or political leaders regarding plans for the area, such as changes to the status quo of who controls access to the Temple Mount. B. Surprising political developments. Jerusalem has also surprised the world through significant political moves. For instance, the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital in 2017. This decision surprised many countries around the world and led to international outcry. Many nations view East Jerusalem as the future capital of a Palestinian state, making any change in Jerusalem's political status extremely sensitive. Such surprises in Jerusalem are not just local but global due to the city's significance to millions of people. 2. Why the Dome of the Rock might be destroyed. The claim or prophecy that the Dome of the Rock will be destroyed stems largely from Jewish eschatology and certain strands of Christian apocalyptic thought. Here are the primary reasons why some groups believe this will happen. A. Jewish eschatology and the Third Temple. Jewish religious belief. According to many Jewish religious traditions, the Third Temple will be rebuilt on the Temple Mount in the Messianic era. This belief holds that the First Temple, built by King Solomon, was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. The Second Temple, rebuilt after the Babylonian exile, was destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE. Jewish prophecy in texts like the Book of Ezekiel speaks of a future temple that will be built in the same location, once the Messiah comes. Since the Dome of the Rock sits on the site where the temples once stood, some religious Jews believe the dome will have to be removed or destroyed for the Third Temple to be built. This belief has inspired temple movements in Israel that are actively planning for the construction of the Third Temple and gathering the necessary materials. B. Christian apocalyptic thought. Some strands of Christian Zionism or evangelical thought believe that the destruction of the Dome of the Rock and the rebuilding of the Third Temple will be a sign of the second coming of Christ. This view comes from interpretations of the Book of Revelation and Daniel, which predict that certain events in Jerusalem, including a rebuilt temple, will precede the end times. See political and extremist movements. While these religious beliefs are significant, the destruction of the Dome of the Rock would likely come through political or extremist action. Extremist Jewish groups, a small minority of far-right religious Zionists, have called for the demolition of the Dome of the Rock, believing it's necessary to fulfill prophecy. They see the current control of the Temple Mount by the Islamic Waqf as an obstacle to Israel's religious future. Political tensions. The volatile political situation in Jerusalem means that any incident involving the Temple Mount could escalate quickly. A violent conflict, such as an attack on the dome, could lead to its destruction, triggering massive global repercussions. End of the status quo. Since 1967, Israel has maintained a delicate and status quo on the Temple Mount, allowing Muslims to manage the site while Israeli security forces ensure overall security. If this balance were to break, whether through political shifts, war, or religious tensions, the Dome of the Rock could become a target for destruction. However, the destruction of the Dome of the Rock would likely provoke widespread violence across the Muslim world and potentially lead to international conflict. Religious prophecies versus political reality. It's important to distinguish between religious prophecy and political reality. While certain religious groups believe in or even plan for the destruction of the dome, the actual possibility of this happening in the near future is highly unlikely due to the immense political, religious, and military consequences it would entail. 3. Global reactions and implications. If the Dome of the Rock were destroyed, the reaction would be global and severe. Muslim world. Given that the dome is one of the holiest sites in Islam, its destruction would provoke outrage across the Muslim world, potentially sparking violent protests, riots, and even wars. Middle East conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict could escalate dramatically. Jerusalem is already a central point of contention, and such an event could lead to renewed violence between Israelis and Palestinians, as well as between Israel and neighboring Muslim-majority countries. Global religious tensions. Beyond the Middle East, the destruction of the dome would likely increase tensions between religious communities, possibly resulting in an uptick in terrorist attacks, both by those seeking revenge and by those attempting to capitalize on the event. Conclusion. The Dome of the Rock occupies a unique place in both religious prophecy and geopolitical reality. While some religious groups, particularly those focused on the rebuilding of the Third Temple, foresee or even advocate for its destruction, the actual occurrence of such an event would be catastrophic, given the immense global reverence for the site. The future of the Dome of the Rock, like much in Jerusalem, is a complex intersection of religious beliefs, political conflict, and international diplomacy. Any event involving this iconic structure would indeed surprise the world and potentially alter the course of history.